The trade deadline is officially over, and we will be recapping the trade deadline by going through our winners and losers. And let's start off with what's the biggest winner. That's the Colorado Avalanche. Heading into the trade deadline, they were already the best team in hockey. They were probably going to be the representative of the Western Conference in the final. And they just, I think, solidified that with the Nazem Kadri trade, adding Nicholas Waugh or Roy. I don't know which one it is, but Nick Waugh. They obviously made the trade for, they traded away Sam Girard earlier to get Brett Kulak. Yes, downgrade, but because of the emergence of Sam Malinsky, you were able to do that trade as well and help get you guys like you just did there. Because we saw, obviously, Minnesota make a big trade with Quinn Hughes back in December, and they added some vet pieces to help them. Foligno brothers are together and all that. And they just went out ahead of the curve and just took out just did what Vegas did a couple of years ago and just got the big names and got rolling.
I think it was very crucial for Colorado because number one, since the new year, they haven't been like that team, right?
Yeah.
That they were before the new year, where they only had like one regular season
For their standards,
loss, right?
especially.
Like they were like in the middle of the pack team.
Yeah.
If you're looking at their the record from January 1 onwards. So getting guys like Kadri and Nick Waugh and Brett Kulak is like should give him like this newfound energy just because this team has obviously upgraded. And now when you're looking at a team that since Kadri left that was struggling to find a 2C, now have three really good centers.
Four. McKinnon, Brock Nelson, Raw, Kadri.
Yeah, well, three really good and one really good for a 4C and one.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
it's still four centers
So you
deep
have like
now. Yeah.
you have three, you're four centers deep, but the three really good are obviously you have the superstar McKinnon, Brock Nelson, and both Kadri are 2Cs, right? And obviously one of them's been playing 3C. Nick Waugh, solid.
The thing is that one of them might be playing wing, from what I heard as well. To be fair,
That could-
because
yeah.
Jack Drury's not bad fourth line center for them as well. So depending on how
so
it
they have
goes.
options now. Like at the end for a league that is in desperate need, where a lot of teams are in desperate need for center depth. When you're looking at Montreal and Detroit, the Colorado Avalanche have an abundance of that, and what they have 5 centers on their roster that could get the job done.
So like this is where you have McKinnon, McCarr, whatever, you got to go for it, right? Like ever since they won the cup, obviously they had to lose Kadri because of contract stuff. They eventually lost Rantanen because of contract stuff. They were losing centers. Their goalie was struggling. They went out and got both the Woods, right? Blackwood and Wedgwood. They've been good for them. But what these guys are doing is like, all right, we don't need to worry about the future right now. Let's go pounce on this opportunity because they gave away a first in the Waugh trade. They gave away a first in the Kadri trade. I think from what I saw, they only have like a second out of the top 3 rounds. They only have a second next year available and like a third in the future, right? Like at the end of the day, listen, it's the same owner as the Rams owner. I'm not saying like obviously he doesn't run the team or anything, but like it's not in a way it's a funny coincidence. But you go out and you do whatever it takes because again, the West isn't necessarily wide open because I feel like you're the team to beat out of the whole NHL. And even in the East, there's Florida going into 3 straight Stanley Cup finals finally gave them a little bit of a beating. They have to take a step back this year. Tampa is the one team I'm looking at. Carolina, and we'll talk about Carolina in a second. You just pounce on this opportunity and you're good. And the best part about the Kadri trade is they were able to make the Calgary Flames retain, I think, $1.5 million for the rest of his contract. And the rest of his contract is, 3 more years after this year left? So not only that you're set, they extended Brock Nelson, was it a 4-year contract? I forgot what the contract extension was, but they obviously signed him on the offseason as well after they traded for him. And I don't know what Nick Waugh's contract situation is on the top of my head, but now that you've just built like one of the deepest teams in NHL history, like this could be equivalent. I'm not saying it is the exact same, but it is somewhat equivalent to what they did in 2022. Obviously, you would rather have a Rantanen is better, but you still you have Natchez. Now you added Kadri back, who's having a solid year for Calgary. You still have probably the best pairing in the NHL and defensively with those two. And both Mackenzie Blackwood and Scott Wedgwood were in consideration for Team Canada, meaning your goalies are relatively the same, if not slightly better than what you had in Darcy Kemper. So for me, it's obviously cup or bust. We know that with these type of teams, but like this team is legit bona fide. Like 2022, where I was so confident that this team was going to win the cup. I feel that way right now.
There's only one reason why I don't feel that way is because the competition in the West they have to face is, in my opinion, much worse than they have to face this year. The good news is that they only have to face the winner of Minnesota and Dallas. right? Which is obviously crazy that the 3 best teams in the NHL are in the Central Division, and one of them is going to be out in the first round.
But we don't know how the Pacific is going to line up because there's a chance they could play Edmonton in the first round. If Edmonton is going to do it, if they end up being a wild card team.
I don't care. This should beat them.
Oh, I know, but what I'm saying, it's still going to be a tougher matchup than a typical wild card
it's going to be
spot.
tougher competition, but I'm just focusing on the Central teams. It will be an embarrassment if a Central team is not representing the Western Conference in the Stanley Cup final. So I'm not even going to get into those conversations. I just say the only reasons will be tough because their Western Conference final should be the second round.
And speaking of Central Division, they made a small additions. Like, we know what Dallas did, adding Tyler Myers to the right side to upgrade that. They added Bunting as well. So they made small additions. Obviously, the Wild, the big one was the big question of the Wild is, can they overcome the playoff hump, right? At the end of the day, people are calling the Wild the biggest winners. If you go back to the whole year in terms of taking the all trade thing, because you got the best player that was available. But once again, we got to see if they can get past Dallas and all that. But let's talk about another Central team that we believe is a big winner, not on the buyer's perspective, but on the seller's perspective. And this is where I'm happy for the St. Louis Blues, because I said that this team needs to sell in our preview video, and they did pretty much exactly that. They obviously tried to move Parayko. It did not happen. And all right, he was able to reject it because he didn't want to move to Buffalo. No criticism from me there, because that's his right. But the fact that you were willing to move a Colton Parayko because there was because you see what the value of the right shot D-man is, right? Like, we saw Tyler Myers go for a second and a fourth or something like that. We just saw Colton Parayko. We saw a second for who did Edmonton pick up from Chicago? Connor Murphy, right? So they were trying to pounce on that. Yeah, it didn't work out. They put Jordan Binnington out available. Robert Thomas was getting a lot of attraction, rightfully so. Top 2 center in the league, right? He's on a championship team, definitely a bona fide.
Not top 2 center in the league, like a guy who could play the 1C or 2C.
He's a top 2. He's a 1C or a 2C, but definitely on a championship team, a 2C. Obviously, you're going to rate him highly because of his contract is relatively cheap. So you have moves you could do in the offseason in that sense, but you moved off of
Justin Falk.
You got a first on that.
For that, yeah. So look, the St. Louis Blues did everything they could have done correctly.
Yeah.
The fact that you were able to get first for Baden Shen, first for Justin Falk, and
that's what Baden Shen I was trying to think of.
And on top of that, I know it's didn't work in your favor, but you still managed technically to get 2 firsts for Colton Parayko. If he obviously accepted that trade to Buffalo, because that was the Sabres last year's 9th overall pick in Radim Mrcha, and then obviously the Sabres first round pick this season, I believe.
Yeah, so pretty much you had an agreement in place.
Exactly. So you could have had 4 first round picks acquired at this deadline. Obviously, unfortunately, that Parayko didn't accept it, which again is not his fault. He has full right to do that. But overall, the approach that the St. Louis Blues did and the execution they had was incredible in this trade deadline.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, and they still could do this before draft day, before the draft, because listen, this free agency is gonna be dead at the end of the day. Like, everybody's pretty much signed. Nick Schmaltz might end up getting an extension before the season even ends. So overall, you're gonna see the value of a Robert Thomas or a Vincent Trocheck. Hopefully, Elias Pettersson to a certain extent, the people are going to be that desperate to go get him, right? So for me, there's set up for that way. And for them, the best case scenario was Jordan Binnington had a really good Olympics. So it's not like, which type of Jordan Binnington we're going to get. He has proven to be a big time player to the point where people in Edmonton are like, they're losers because they couldn't get him or another type of goalie there. But what St. Louis did, kudos to them, because they have officially accepted the rebuild. And listen, if they win the lottery, they have a Stenberg on their team. They might reunite the brothers if they even win it. Obviously, the top 2 would be ideal for them. But overall, kudos to the St. Louis Blues. And next up, it is the Calgary Flames. Similar vibe to what they did, right? They moved off of Mackenzie Weegar, traded him to the Utah Mammoth, got 3 second-round picks. Obviously, everybody was hoping for TJ Ginla to be returned in that somehow because of the Calgary connections. Yeah. With Jerome McGinley, obviously, being his kid. But move off of him. Obviously, the Nazem Kadri trade, they got a first from that. They traded Rasmus Andersson earlier in the year to Vegas. So what these guys are doing, yes, could they have maybe traded a Blake Coleman or whatever? Sure, why not? That could be an offseason thing. But the fact that they were able to break down the roster even more, what Craig Conroy is doing and accepting a full-on rebuild like he did from a couple of years ago, And they're firmly in the mix for this year's pick. They're firmly in the mix for next year's pick and Landon DuPont for sure, because who is really good on the defensive side? And if they were able to, and they're set up for the future in general, because you have the franchise goalie in Dustin Wolf. If they win the pick of DuPont, sure, whatever. But if not, or this year Veerhoff, whatever, you still have a guy in Zane Podak who you're trying to hopefully be into that either first line center, top pairing D man or. Yeah, top pairing D-man at least at the minimum, right? Like a Bouchard type guy. And you're looking to who your next forward is going to be. There's some players there, sure. But overall, like what these guys are doing, and then they're set for the future. Like they have like 2 firsts in the next 2 or 3 drafts. You're set that way
multiple
too.
Seconds as well.
Exactly.
As well, so...
Scary for the Canucks in the Pacific Division come future.
Look, I know we're going to talk about the Canucks near the end because it's our team. I didn't hate what the Canucks did. Obviously, they did an approach, but like seeing teams like St. Louis and Calgary just do it better is what pisses me off about it. So that's the only thing I'm gonna say about the Canucks right now.
We'll talk about it later.
That's what the Calgary Flames are done. Like when you're looking at the teams like Blues, Flames, and Canucks, they're at the bottom 3, right? And you could clearly tell that 2 of them really won the battle of acquiring futures, whether it be picks or young players. And obviously, St. Louis and Calgary have done a magnificent job at the deadline. And they both accomplished their missions. Getting a first for a 34-year-old Braden Shen. Getting a first for a right shot demon in Justin Falk. And then on the other side, getting rid of Uyghur and getting rid of Kadri, the 2 guys that were supposed to be, or like that had the most probably trade rumors on your team. And they actually found a way to get it done. So again, props to them. Props to their GMs because... They stuck with their plan and they got the job done, right? So for that reason, that next couple of drafts, like there's a top guy next year in Landon DuPont. This draft class, especially the top end, have some talented pieces as well. So they have set themselves up pretty well compared to other teams, in my opinion.
Yeah, and then before we move on to like the losers or like the neutral side of things, I do want to ask you very quickly. We don't need to go too much in depth. Team, like so we mentioned Utah already. I believe there should be the conversation of winners because they're in the Robert Thomas mix. And that, yeah, they're not going to win the cup this year, but if they do land a Robert Thomas in the offseason, great. But like them getting Mackenzie Weegar, helping them try to be a solidified wildcard team. And then even what the Ducks did, I don't know, there's some neutral reaction to that because you gave away a first for 36-year-old John Carlson. But then again, it's John Carlson. He could mentor the young guys there. Cup winner, probably the best defenseman in Capitals history, you could say, arguably, right? What do you think of teams like those that did moves like that? The Sharks, you could throw in there a little bit, so on and so forth.
Another team I'm throwing the Sabres.
Yeah, like those type of teams. How would you?
Sabres got Shen and Logan Stanley, which obviously. You could literally say they have the best defense in terms of all around defense, offense, defense, size, and all the speed and all those things. And I think that belongs to the Buffalo Sabres. Again, there's teams that are young, that are doing good, and want to reward their teams. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Again, you could be overzealous. Like I think 2 firsts for Parayko basically was overzealous, but I think that was a good thing that Parayko didn't accept for the Buffalo Sabres, in my opinion.
Same here.
But overall, like, it just finding a way to add some talent without giving up too much, because the real test is of how you're going to find out who your team really is and where they really are is in the playoffs. This is Anaheim's first time in a while. Obviously, Buffalo trying to break that playoff drought.
Detroit made a move of Justin Falk to help them out as well.
Yeah, Detroit. So, like, same Utah, obviously haven't been ever technically, but like if you go back to Arizona, they haven't been there in a while as well. So I think it's a good way to add some pieces without giving up like too much in return, because that will help not only this year, but it will still give you a clear picture of where this team is really at in terms of the young core that these guys have.
Any other winners you want to add?
No, not really.
All right, so let's move on. I'm going to give you my first loser. I don't know if you're going to agree with it, because to your point or the overzealous point, the New York Islanders, in my opinion, when they did get Braden Shen for a first and a third, and then extended JG Pajot on top of that, I view them as a loser, not like a big loser, but a loser in a sense that you're kind of going into that trap of what they were fell in the trap before of acquiring aging players and being stuck on their contracts. As good as, because this year for me, their season was saved because Matthew Schaefer surprised everybody. No one thought he was going to be this good, but like, yeah, at the end of the day, first overall pick, franchise defenseman is now a conversation of a superstar defenseman already. And of course, the reemergence of your goalie, Ilya Sorokin, who's probably going to win the Vezina this year.
I'm more so on neutral for the Islanders just because I'm not going to... Like, realistically, when you look at their young pieces, the main one is Schaefer. It's not like they completely started the rebuild. They just got lucky that they won the lottery last year.
So that's why I said loser.
So, like, I don't think they would have even just started the rebuild. Even so, and right now, because you have contracts locked up, like you have two older players, Horvat, Barzal, Sorokin, and Nat, and then Shen,
Pajot.
JG Pajot.
They got off of Drouin, obviously, because he was part of the trade.
Exactly, but I just felt like I don't think. Like, I agree with you. Like, they should be rebuilding and shouldn't be adding all these pieces.
Yeah, like stay put was my best.
But at the same time, I don't think like just because they were good, they have been good this year. I just feel like I don't hate it just because
it's an open Eastern Conference.
It's an open Eastern Conference. The Panthers are not gonna be the Panthers. Like, they're most likely gonna miss the playoffs, and they might have a chance. Who knows what happens? I think in this year's Eastern Conference, anything could happen. In my opinion, again, I don't love it. I just don't think they're going to be a loser just because I'm not going to really criticize a team trying to win this year just because they're having a good season. It's a different story if they're like wild card 1, wild card 2 position or like outside barely looking in type of thing. But they're firmly second in the Metro right now. So because of that, I don't hate it as much, but I do see your points because obviously this is a team that has been middle of the pack for quite a few years and obviously are going to have to pick a direction sooner than later. I just don't think they have to pick it at this moment.
So speaking of the Metro Division, I think this is, you might agree with me, the biggest loser in my opinion is the leader of the Metropolitan Division. That's the Carolina Hurricanes. And the reason why is literally the only team you might have to worry about is Tampa Bay, and Tampa Bay made moves themselves. They brought back Corey Perry, which means they're guaranteed to go to the Stanley Cup Finals and lose. if we're being realistic here. Not realistic, but if we're like going on based on trends in the past, right? So which means you're not going to make it to the final. But joking aside, the Hurricanes, like last year, I love that they went out to try to get Mikko Rantanen a little bit too aggressive, and then obviously it didn't work out. You went out and got Logan Stankoven and whatever. The year before, they did the Jay Gensel trade. Obviously, we know in the long-term outcome, they made the mistake, but at least they went out. This year, I'm like, okay, are you really going to buy in again on this same roster with the addition of Ehlers in the beginning of the year? Stankoven has taken a step back this year after giving it the contract extension. Because, at the end of the day, do I see you beating an Islanders team? Yes. Do I see you beating, if it ends up being Pittsburgh? Yeah. Do I see you beating one of the wild card teams? I do. But when you run into a team like Tampa, I'm favoring Tampa, personally. And so for you not to go out there and get the aggressive score that could have been potentially available to go get, whether it be a second-line center, whether it be a winger who could go out and play make, I think that's a mistake. Yes.
I personally don't even care if it was I just wanted them to get something. Yeah. Because when you're looking at, and I know eventually like Colorado got the job done a little bit, but there were good players available still, like Trocheck. They might not like fit the profile. Connor Garland. But what I'm trying to say here is that get something. It doesn't have to be like your biggest need is probably goal scoring, and especially clutch goal scoring because at playoff time it dries out for you guys. But the thing I'm trying to say is that your team, one, is really good. Your biggest kryptonite is not going to make the playoffs in the Florida Panthers. And then number 3, no one, especially in the Eastern Conference, no one really went out and added something. Like how Vegas adds some people like during the deadline or go ultra aggressive.
Who did they add, by the way?
Like I'm talking about just Vegas.
Nick Dowd, yeah.
But Vegas didn't do that obviously this year. But the years Vegas were really good. They always do that. I just felt like no one in the Eastern Conference did that. And I'm just saying this one from a Carolina perspective, but like for every team as well. I think it's going to be a missed opportunity because they had the chances of adding in good players here for each of the contenders in the East. And going back to the playoff time and looking at when they potentially might get eliminated, they might look back to the deadline like, damn, we could have possibly added him or a Trocheck or a Kadri because obviously he went super late. And they might just be like, they might regret this decision of not going all in and being aggressive, because I feel like a team like the Hurricanes, who have been, in my opinion, next to Tampa Bay Lightning, the most consistent team in the Eastern Conference, I feel like a team like the Hurricanes should have done something.
Especially this year when Florida's out of the picture for this year.
Yeah, like I said before. Like I said before, like if there's a chance they could go to the Cup final, it's this year. Because like I said before, the kryptonite is not making the playoffs.
But okay, if you were to say right now, are you pick a team to represent the East? Are you going with Tampa? Or are you going with Hurricanes? Or are you going with someone else?
Well, yeah, judging by the reputation, I'm gonna go with Tampa.
Yeah, because like they've done it before. They have the coach. They have the better players, in my opinion. Even at the moment, even though they don't have Stamkos anymore, you added a clutch guy in Jake Gensel, who you did add 2 years ago and messed that up somehow as well. The next two teams I have, I'm gonna clump them together because it's the same situation for me. I'm putting them as loser, but not like a big selling loser, and that is the Leafs, and that is the Rangers. Rangers are the bigger loser in my opinion.
Okay, Rangers. I'm gonna get this out of the way. The Leafs are neutral because at the end of the day, I feel like they would have been loser if they didn't get the deals done. Like, I know they didn't get the best possible returns for them.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, they got the deals done that the people that needed to go were gone. So in that case, I don't want to classify them as a loser. I would classify them more as a neutral. I would definitely have them, if I were to pick one between winner and loser, I would definitely have them more closer to a loser than a winner. But at the same time, I can't clump them together with the Rangers, because
okay, so
the
Rangers.
Yeah.
We talked about them a lot this year, so we don't need to go too much in detail.
Look, like, I get it. Like, you could do this in the offseason as well with Trocheck, potentially. But there's a upcoming draft coming up that has good, talented players in the top 5, top 10. And having an opportunity to
maximize that, getting another pick, or just even in the first round, getting another first-round pick, obviously is huge. Again, we never know what the market is. We never know what the offers really are, right? Maybe, like, it was really bad offers. That's why they didn't move off of them. But overall, I just think that for a team that... I just don't like it where teams come out say that we're going to go sell or get rid of players, get rid of our UFAs and all that stuff, but don't do it. Talk about
just like... Look, there's a different thing where, like, you're not picking a direction, but I think it's worse where you pick a direction, but you just don't follow through. Like, you announce what the direction is, but you don't follow through on it.
Yeah.
That's where I'm looking at the Rangers. At the end of the day, the Leafs follow through on it to an extent. Like, I know they didn't get rid of OEL as well, but overall, like, they sat out McMahon, they sat out a lot, and they obviously sat him out for roster management reasons. They got it done.
Yeah.
The Rangers...
OEL is also, the family's expecting a child this month, so maybe they went from the person side down and things.
Yeah, and OEL said, himself that he wanted to stay.
Yeah.
Obviously, that could be a big possible reason.
Yeah.
Where the Rangers, I don't think they got it done at the deadline day.
All right.
In terms of getting rid of their assets.
Two teams to close that out that I think we were going to both put in neutral, more so than a loser. I'm going to start off with the Edmonton Oilers. And the reason why I'm going to start with them, we already know the most pressured team in the NHL probably in a long time is the Edmonton Oilers. You have 2 years of Connor McDavid remaining, maybe even one, depending on how the next year goes, because he might just request a trade for all we know if it doesn't go well, aka not necessarily request, but like what happened with Quinn Hughes with the Vancouver Canucks. You went out, in my opinion, did a good move by getting in Connor Murphy. And the reason why I say that is because defensively on paper, you should have a good defense even before that, in my personal opinion. But Darnell Nurse hasn't been the greatest. Evan Bouchard is having a really good year on the offensive side, but we know the defensive lapses. Matthias Ekholm is not getting any younger. And Jake Wallman's been fine for them, right? But now you get a guy in Connor Murphy who's been a steady defensive defenseman. You're not going to get point production from him because you're going to get that from the back end from Bouchard anyways. Plus, you have McDavid and Draisaitl and whoever else is going to be playing with them. You don't need point production. You don't necessarily need... Yeah, you need the depth scoring to step up a little bit, but you have the 2 of the 3 best players in hockey, 2 of the top 5 players in hockey anyways. What happens with this Connor Murphy move is now he slots into maybe the second pairing, dropping Darnell Nurse. Like, you know how we say Tyler Myers is better in a better lower and like the bottom pairing situation where you have to be seen too much. He'll play steady hockey and all that. Connor Murphy, playing him and the guy like Jake Wallman, for example, that takes care of your top 2 pairings. And then Darnell Nurse could be on the third pairing, just be like what we say about Sam Darnold in the NFL. Just take care of the football. Just make sure he just takes care of the puck, doesn't do anything dumb, stupid, and all that. Because we've seen this defense step up in the playoffs when they needed to. So that part of things, I liked it. I wasn't going to say necessarily the overall winners because of that, but they at least addressed the move, aka a neck home from a couple of years ago to a certain extent. The question mark is now going back to the goalies, because the one thing we didn't talk about this year was that trade Skinner for Jari, because the same exact day the Quinn Hughes trade broke, so we didn't have time to talk about it. But now we have to talk about it a little bit because we're seeing Skinner doing good in Pittsburgh and Jari doing awful in Edmonton. And Jari came out and said that we cannot be giving grade A chances. Draisaitl's coming out and saying, oh, like our goalie needs to make a save. Kevin Woodley, who's a really good respected goalie analyst, he's on radio and stuff, he says, listen, both can be true, but Edmonton's environment hasn't been the greatest because AKA Skinner was struggling this year, but now when you go put him in Pittsburgh, he's been fine, and they're, him and Sheelovs have been swapping every other game essentially, right? And both of them have been fine for the most part, AKA why Pittsburgh is firmly in a top 3 spot at the moment. By the way, Malkin got 5 games for that slash. Crazy.
Yeah,
I didn't expect that from Malkin. But going back to the Oilers side of things, should they have gone out and addressed a goalie? Yeah, you could easily say that. But the moves they already made, picks they've already given up, all that. And then the last thing before I let you go on it, because I'm not gonna add too much more after you talk, is giving up a first for Jason Dickinson, getting off the Mangiapane contract, the mistake that you made, and you're giving a first round pick for Jason Dickinson and Colton Dach, who hasn't even panned out in the NHL, is crazy work to me. That's where I'm like, are they losers because of that? Because you could have used that first round pick on something better, personally, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Jason Dickinson will
honestly,
help them defensively for sure.
Yeah.
But for the most part.
Look, again, a neutral is fair just because they did something. Did it do the best work? Definitely not. And then when it comes to the goaltending, like they already, I won't say addressed it, but they already made a move, right? So in that case, you're just looking at mainly looking at the environment, because the fact that Skinner is playing better than he is with Pittsburgh than he has been with Edmonton just shows you that there's something wrong with Edmonton.
Pressure's a possibility as well.
Yeah, that's fair. Obviously, and the pressure is there, like you said it. Like, they're the most pressured team in the NHL because of Connor McDavid and him being lenient with them for the next couple of years with his money. So the pressure is definitely there, and the environment is there where, like you said, teams are coming out. Like, at the end of the day, both could be true. The defensively, they got to be better as a team, because if they're giving too many good chances, like, it's not going to be good for the goalie, right?
It could be any goalie, really. Yeah.
Like, look, like at the end of the day, if you're giving up too many grade A's, like, you're not going to like, at the end of the day, you're not going to be like, oh, Connor Hellebuyck sucks because you're giving up too many grade A chances, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, the other thing could be true where, like, obviously you need a big save, and that's where goalies, like, not even just Hellebuyck, like Bennington did in the Olympics, right? Or in the Four Nations, made those big saves. Darcy Kemper, when he won with Colorado, made the big saves when he needed to, right? Adin Hill for Vegas. So, again, Draisaitl has a point, Jari has a point. The reason why Adin Hill was also successful is because Vegas actually did play proper defense
one
in
of the
front of
best
him.
defenses.
Yeah. And then when they needed this big save, Adin Hill did make those big saves, right? So I think I'm looking at the goaltending for Edmonton is just like, don't lose because of your goalie. Yeah. Like, the Edmonton Oilers, the last 2 playoff runs have lost literal playoff games because of their goaltending.
Yes.
Right? In this situation, and this year, you're just looking for Tristan Jarry to not be the sole reason why you lose games. Right? It could be the defense, it could be not scoring enough and all that stuff. But if it's not Tristan Jarry costing you games, then you made an upgrade in that. So I can't criticize that. And right now, with his play, that hasn't been the case. Yeah, it has been concerning. So that's number one. And the other, I guess, because technically, obviously, Bennington was made available. To an extent, Bobrovsky was made available. Yeah. And you also look at Montreal, like, oh, why just go out and trade for Bobrovsky? Like, why not, right? Yeah. Because they're going to need a better goaltending when it comes to playoff time as well. I
expected maybe a goalie trade or two that we were hearing a lot of goalies being available.
I just didn't think Edmonton wasn't going to do it just because they already made that goalie trade. So,
yeah,
I guess they're going to try to.
I think they're going to do what Colorado did, what they did when they added Georgiev, and they waited till the next year. If he was still struggling, then they made the move for Mackenzie Blackwood and all that. I feel like depending on how this playoff, I think they're going to make the playoffs. I think you agree with that. Yeah, we'll see what ends up happening because, like, other reason why I hated the trade that they made, they were going to be off the books from Skinner, but now you add. It's kind of like not a big level of OEL trade when the Canucks made it for it, but like you added more years of Jari, who's been an inconsistent goalie himself, so it's a little bit somewhat lateral with a worse contract, but. Before I go to the final team, what are your thoughts on the Connor Murphy thing and then the Jason Dickinson thing I added with the first round pick?
Well, I agree with you with the Jason Dickinson thing. It was obviously his crazy work. Him being traded for you trading a first for Jason Dickinson. In terms of what the player type you're getting, I think
makes sense.
It's going to help you.
Bottom pair.
Yeah, it's going to help you. Yeah. Like, it's going to help you defensively. Who knows if you could chip in some goals? That's obviously a big, massive dub.
Been solid. He was an arguable case for All-Star when Bedard went down last year, I think, or whoever was their All-Star representative. Yeah.
And then Connor Murphy is, like you said, like it's going to help him out defensively, and then that's what they obviously are going to need. So if that's the case, like if you get helped out defensively, then
that should help your goalie.
That should hopefully help your goalie.
All right, last team. Let's bring it up. The Vancouver Canucks. Like you said, you alluded to it earlier. Very neutral, in my personal opinion. Because again, you did not trade any of. Oh, you traded away David Kampf. You didn't trade your main UFAs that were available on deadline day. Because like obviously you traded away Kiefer Sherwood. That was your main one. You got 2 seconds out of it. Although let me ask you this very quickly before I continue. If you had waited, do you think we could have gone to first with how the market went this last week?
Maybe
it's a
maybe
risk
not. Yeah,
for sure because he was injured at the time too.
I don't think so.
Okay, so that's fair. So they did the right move. They got rid of him as soon as you possibly could. Then yeah, you got a 6 for Kampf. That was a free 6th anyways because you got him for free regardless. You traded away Reichel, which was you got him for a 4th. You traded away for a 6th. Did I give him a proper opportunity to play in the NHL in his proper position? So the fact that you kept Bluger, which you were planning on extending, hopefully not a crazy contract, because now it looks like the Canucks are rebuilding. So that means you still need solid vets. I agree with that. Evander Kane clearly had no market. You messed up that trade. My thing from last year wasn't the trade happened. Was like, okay, if the Canucks are going to be bad, at least you could move off of them. Couldn't happen. So that's one side of the story. Because I have to still address another thing afterwards. The other side is like the good is you move like Tyler Myers was a surprise move. Like we didn't expect him to be traded because we thought he's gonna be Vancouver through it thick and thin. This guy's a perfect vet guy. The guy who like his legacy in Vancouver was getting shit on, chaos, giraffe, and all that. Managed to we're like we need to probably buy him out or trade away a first round pick just to get rid of him. We got assets for him because how good he has been for us in the playoffs, both times in the bubble and in the Nashville Edmonton series. So like obviously he accepted it thankfully and it worked out. Like you do that trade all the time. So you got rid of one guy that has 1 year left on his contract, retained some money, and then you got rid of another guy with what you call vet with term, which was Connor Garland, which was probably out of all the guys outside of Hronek, if he was made available, would have been the easiest guy to trade. They were able to trade him. But again, what they messed up, and why give him a 6-year extension on the offseason? I understand you want to extend guys, but because of that, the value lowered a little bit. His play this year lowered a little bit. Yes, you got a 2nd and a 4th, no retention and no money taken back, even though I wouldn't have mind Ken Johnson, but at the same time, I don't want another reclamation project to a certain extent. Ken Johnson's a hometown kid. That's the only reason why. So like you kind of lowered his value by giving him the extension because if he was a pure rental, and we're talking about like, listen, the Blue Jackets added him. He's a great player. Like, but if like if he was just a pure rental, like Carolina or someone, whatever,
Carolina would have chucked in a first for him.
Someone would have given a first for that. So for that reason, yeah, it lowers it a little bit, but at least you got rid of the 6x6 for the next 6 years, right? So that way, I'm looking at that case. But then you're also the guys that when they came in, you want to let UFAs stay without knowing if they're staying or not. Lindholm and Zadorov are a different story. But when you first came in, you traded away Tyler Mott last second. But like last 2 years, Besser, you ended up bringing back Suter, you let walk. And now these two guys, same thing. That's where it's a little weird for these guys. And I'll let you talk before I talk about LV.
I mean, I'm not going to say much. The only thing I could really say is that like, you can't criticize them too much because they did do some of the right things. Like at the end of the day, Quinn Hughes trade was the right trade. Same with Sherwood. Same with getting Myers done, getting Garland done was also huge as well. But at the same time, you felt like you expected more, especially when other teams around you in similar situations did more and better. So for those things kind of like annoy me a little bit. Again, like
similar to Toronto,
like Calgary and St. Louis are embracing it, right?
Yeah.
Like St. Louis doesn't get rid of their captain if they're not trying to embrace a rebuild.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so in that situation, the same with like Calgary. Like, if they're not embracing rebuild, they won't get rid of Uyghur and Kadri.
Yeah.
Right.
Anderson and everyone else they traded. Lindholm. Yeah.
So for the Canucks, I'm like, because not only that you have just like vets taking up too much money issue, but you also have a culture issue. And that's also because of your vets.
Yeah.
So like potentially not getting Pedersen or not getting Pedersen done. Again, would have been ideal if you got something from. Again, it would be a difficult one. Same thing with Hronek, who, in my opinion,
should be available now.
Should get you a really good return in my opinion for a right shot demon who has played pretty well this season as well.
Yeah,
for
like the only thing,
the team has.
the only thing with the Hronek situation is like how much does he really want to leave? What's the case right here?
But
right?
all I'm trying to say is that Calgary got rid of people with term and UFAs.
Yeah.
Same with St. Louis, right? Canucks didn't do that, or didn't do that enough. They got rid of some people with term, Garland and Myers. They didn't get rid of all the UFAs.
You gotta share with us.
But they also couldn't do what Calgary and St. Louis did, which was also get the best possible returns in deals.
So
and that's where you could start bringing in Alvin and Rutherford in terms of just getting the job done and the negotiation tactics and all that stuff.
They made it clear that like Hronek is untouchable, and I disagree with that. Like I said that, I know you said you like to keep him. I don't disagree with that take.
Yeah,
but
like,
he's their highest value guy
the
now.
good news is that you don't have to rush on PD and Hronek.
Yeah, and even Besser or whatever, like those guys as well. But my point with Philip Hronek is we saw what Colton Parayko was about to get. We saw what Myers went for, a second and a fourth. We saw like Connor Murphy go for a second. These are the right shot demon.
Rasmus Anderson deal. Like he went for a first and a second. Parayko at 32 was going for 2 first.
Yeah.
No, in my opinion, Hronek.
As long as Hronek didn't say, I want this one spot and that's it.
Yeah, like in my opinion, Hronek was better than Rasmus Anderson and Colton Parayko.
Yeah, so you're telling me that like if a team like that, like you cannot make him untouchable. I know he's a really good player. You want someone to lead, but listen, if you're true to the rebuild, and I know we're not going to go too much into it because we'll make a proper Canucks video probably afterwards, but at the end of the day, he's going to fetch you a lot if there is a decent bidding war. Again, pending Hronek's decision. Obviously, we know that. But he's going to get you the biggest return if you really want to. But going to Alvin's situation here. Every time this guy does a presser, the market's not good or it's unpredictable. As soon as he says that after the Myers trade, boom, trade started going down. We didn't get calls on Bluger or Kane. I call it cap, but obviously we don't know the true thing for that situation is. Because you're telling me...
Yeah, to add to that point quickly, I think I saw a tweet online. I don't know how true it was, but in the presser today, I think Satyar Shah asked that, how'd you guys get a deal?
It was not in the presser, but like in the radio interview, the show interview.
Yeah, whatever it was. Like how you were able to get a deal for David Kampf, but not for Bluger.
Exactly.
And Evander Kane, and he had no answer for it.
I would be annoyed that we didn't get at least a third round pick because we saw what Scott Lawton, or not even just Scott Lawton, like a bunch of these guys went for, right? Like Michael McCarron, right? I'm saying that, Michael McCarron went for a second. Right, I'm not saying like Bluger is equal or better than these guys. I'm saying like at least get something out of it, and you can re-sign him in the offseason if you really need to, and if he really wants to come back, because we've seen teams do that before. But my point is, every time you say the market's not this, or like last year, we didn't have a good trade for Brock Besser. Like, listen, back when you traded Tyler Mott, and I know this is kind of a sore subject for you because you're the biggest Tyler Mott fan in the world that I know. You traded away him for a random. I don't even think it was the same year 4th round pick. You just traded away him for a 4th round pick. Yeah. And we thought you could have gotten more value out of that. So you're telling me you couldn't get that done? Kane, I get it, different situation. We know all that behind the scenes stuff. You might just waive him or release him and let him go do his thing in the playoff team if someone really wants him. But that's the stuff that triggers me, because it feels like you're valuing these guys way too high and then you're giving up. You're not willing to negotiate. The one thing this management group regime hasn't done well is, to a certain extent, trades. Some trades they did well. Some trades like these ones, they piss me off because, again, we're seeing some of these guys get first and seconds and stuff, right? So this is honestly, if you're up to me right now, Jim Rutherford's a different situation. He has the connections. He's a Hall of Famer. He's older. I get it, but if I were them, I would move off of Patrick Allvin. But clearly, he's not able to negotiate properly these trades. Because either promote Ryan Johnson, I feel like he did a good job in Abbotsford, aka they're Calder Cup champions for a reason, before someone like Nashville scoops him up because we know what Barry Trotz is leaving now. Or you go out, get one of the guys from either of the Florida teams, Tampa or Florida itself or Colorado, because these guys are developing guys, finding diamonds in the rough, or negotiating trades properly. Because at the end of the day, you can't say market wasn't there, or we didn't like what they offered for our players because of the valuing, whatever. You're supposed to sell the guys. Do you not have proper connections? Jim Rutherford has connections, which is why it kind of works out to a certain extent. So,
one thing I'm just going to say about this is my last point about the Canucks.
Yeah.
Is that ever since the JT Miller trade, they have not made the right move at all. And yes, you could say the Quinn Hughes trade was the right move, but them just constantly making the wrong move led to the Quinn Hughes trade.
Yeah.
Right? There's no reason why you should trade that first for Marcus Pettersson. There's no reason that you should be extending Demko when you know
Garland.
this guy's not healthy. There's no reason that you should have been extending Garland, in my opinion, that early. There's no reason that Adam Foote should be your head coach. First of all, like, we all knew that wasn't the best head coaching, especially with the people available as well. And then on top of that, and then PD not bouncing back and the Besser not
banking on what's his name, Heedle to stay healthy as your 2C and
all those things, not addressing the center position fully as well, like you said you were gonna do, but you didn't, and all that stuff led to the Quinn Hughes trade. And then that itself was the right decision and all that stuff, but at the end of the day, you trade away Quinn Hughes, so it's never ever gonna be a good thing. At the end of the day. And then same goes with Sherwood as well. So it just felt like for the last year that this management group just has not made the right decisions, and that's the reason
doing
why.
the opposite or not doing what they said they were.
Exactly.
They misread the market, they misread like the fan base.
They're just not getting the job done. This past year, like when they came in, you saw some good things, right? Some bad things, but some good things. But from what I seen this past year, all I saw was everything bad. Every choice or acquisition they did or made was the wrong one or the bad one, or it just put them in a worse spot than they were already at.
I don't understand. Like, I feel like personally, I feel like Jim Rutherford is still going to be there because you don't do a Quinn Hughes move and get fired. But if I'm like moving off of certain staff members, Patrick Alvino I think should go, because everybody asks, what does he really do properly? And I'm at that point. I would, again, if you want to go internal, I would give Ryan Johnson that opportunity because I feel like he's a good, solid guy. He's been there for the longest time as well before even Rutherford and them came in. There's a reason why they kept him. They trust him. Otherwise, go out and get someone that's on one of these solid front offices and hopefully they do the job well for you, because at the end of the day, can't use that as an excuse. But again, for the most part, at least the Canucks did some moves. They're still dead last. I know they just beat Chicago as we're recording this, but they're still that bad that they should hopefully get a top 2 pick. But overall, I guess we'll wrap it there because my co-host over here is kind of dying from sickness right now, coughing his heart out. But he powered through, so I'll give him credit because it was a big
deadline, man. It's deadline day. You got to do it.
Yeah,
even though it's a shit deadline day, but you
still got some big moves throughout the week. So that was the big part. But that pretty much wraps it up for us. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button. We're almost at 200 subscribers. We dropped also reels on Instagram and TikToks as well, so you guys follow us there as well. Comment down below your biggest winner and your biggest loser of the deadline, your favorite move, or what team is in big trouble going forward. We want to hear you guys in the comments. Hit the subscribe button once again, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.
Peace.